Do you have a car?
I don't have it. But I can give you my email if you want.
I can take it.
So anyway, what's your
Where am I email you at? Email you to.
I didn't see it. That's kind of what I was thinking.
I didn't even know you guys were working on this.
Wake my ass up.
I'm missing a thing on mine too. I just didn't for that and then meet you and see what was going on.
All right, it is 7 o'clock. We are in our regular scheduled meeting for Idaho Springs City Council. We're waiting on Bob.
What about Bob?
Regular meeting March 12th, 2018. Thanks everybody for being here. Can I have roll call, please?
Michael Hillman,
Here.
Scott Pennell,
Here.
Chrissy Stokes, here, Bob Boland,
Here.
Mike Buick,
Here.
John Curtis,
Here.
Jason Ziegel.
Here.
Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. We have an agenda. We're going to modify the agenda and we're going to do the GIS presentation, and we're going to put that down under Allen's Community Development and Planning. About halfway in the page. So we'll add that in. Does anybody else have any amendments that we want to do? Hearing none.
The addition of approved to appoint Rick Wells
Rick
to
Wells.
HPRC.
We will do that down under committee reports. We'll wait till we get all the way down to the end. All right, very good. Hearing none, do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the agenda for March 12th, 2018 meeting as amended.
Do I have a second? Motion is second on the table. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Does anybody feel they have a conflict of interest tonight? None? All right, we've got the minutes in front of us. Do I have a motion?
The motion moved to approve the minutes from February 26, 2018.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Everybody take a look at those. Anything that doesn't seem like it's right? Diane does a pretty good job of making sure this stuff's pretty good.
There's one misspelling.
Huh.
Uh-oh.
Y'all didn't catch it.
I didn't get
All right, do I have, we got a motion and a second. Discussion.
Ordinance? Is that what it
No,
was?
we're still under the approval of the minutes of the stuff. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we'll move to the bills. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve bills to March 12th, 2018.
Do I have a second? Discussion. I didn't see, maybe I looked over. Did you have the new proposal from Scott Wallace in here?
Yes.
It wasn't here? Where did I miss it?
Does he go by a different name? Remember, what's his, Wallace Landscaping?
In the bills,
Oh, it's in, no, but did you have the, I didn't see
Yeah,
it.
it's Scott Wallace, page 10 there.
But you didn't have the new proposal, you know, the copy of the new proposal that he gave us? The additional cost on it?
In the packet?
Yeah.
Is that the question? No.
Okay, it's just in the
Sorry.
bills.
It was submitted with the invoice.
And I want to discuss that for a minute, because if you remember, Scott Wallace is gonna do the roundabout project for us. After the engineering had been done and it came back, he was gonna have to do some things that were gonna require some extra work and you know, bigger supports and deeper concrete for the caissons and things. So the price went up about 10 grand,
Yes.
about $10,000.
And he's gonna have to hire some subs.
Yeah, he's gonna have to hire a couple of subs.
Do we need to modify the design to?
I don't think there's any way to, you know, this is just the way it is. We wanted to make sure that it wasn't gonna fall on somebody.
Yeah, JVA, right?
JVA did the engineering on
Wow.
it.
It was
Went
a
through
building
Safe Built,
for-
Safe Built come out. Safe Built came back with all these other recommendations. And now we need to build it, a little more sturdy to
So,
protect the city.
this 10,000 extra was both Safe Built and JVA together, their improvements, or is it just one of them?
Just Scott's.
Just Scott, just the,
Just-
yeah.
oh, okay,
We
yeah.
don't need, we don't know the
Extra cost to
Yeah,
construct
it was
it,
based on their.
Extra cost of construction.
because it had to be engineered,
Okay, what was the original cost, I don't remember.
it's like
18,000?
18,000, I thought.
Yeah, about 18,000.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
we're
a-
up about 27,000, yes.
Yes.
Holy cow.
Does it matter if he hires the subs or if we hire the subs, which way works better?
I would probably rather him hire the subs. He said that he's gonna work with Steve Cleary and for the caissons being poured and everything.
And I think it works better that way if there's a problem that we deal with one person
Yeah.
or.
I know it's an increase. Now, I remind you, how much do we have budgeted for that project, Andy?
25 for the roundabout
Wow.
project, so.
Now,
And that's carried over from last year,
uh-huh.
from last year.
We
so-
budgeted last year, carried it over, but that was in the hopes of being able to get the new sign,
Right.
or cards and other things that we may need to buy. And we can always, put those on the next year's budget. I would really like to get, we're gonna put some boulders and stuff to get the structure in there ASAP. We've been pushing it. I think it's time to get it done.
So do you think that's more important than signage?
Then sign, well, we've got $25,000, so we're really only a few $1,000s, $3,000. Are you talking about what
Well, you're
signage?
talking about the extra money was supposed to go, we
For
had,
that
we had
sign,
25
like-
budgeted, the project was 18, but we had that extra money in there for the signage and,
Well, the sign I'm talking about is like what we have at Come and Go.
right,
Yeah.
so we're not.
Something like that could be postponed if we wanted to wait on that, or if we want to try to find the money somewhere else in the budget, we can, we put that in next year's budget.
We did pay the first deposit on the structure last year. like
And what he's
in
asking
July.
for is
And
another
that's when we got
8,000.
into the building review, building plan review, and we had to do the engineering. So the first deposit, which I think was $6,000 maybe, was paid out of last year's
Right,
budget.
and he's needing another 8,000 to proceed.
So there's no way to go back to the drawing board and try to modify the design to eliminate the extra $10,000 cost?
I don't think we're gonna get the same thing out of it if we got $10,000 off
They
of
gotta
it.
take half that much to make it cheaper.
We will incur some cost to redesign it.
And the cost of redesigning and.
Yeah.
Kind of in a bind with it.
Well, I personally would rather see a sign there than a tower. If it's gonna be an extra $10,000 and all this extra, I hesitate to wanna approve another $10,000 for something without having any signs. down
So if
there.
we decide to go with something different, then we have spent money on engineering and design.
Yeah.
And so we've already spent $5,000 to $6,000 on that.
Yeah, we're
Safe
kinda
Built.
going backwards if we do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Well,
It's gonna be nice. I mean, I really believe that this was a pretty good idea and a concept.
Pretty iconic.
I agree, it's definitely a great concept, but none of us predicted an extra $10,000 expense.
Yeah.
We are getting proposals for stone signs similar to the Come and Go. So as soon as we have that information, we'll bring that back to council.
Alright.
We've had a little trouble getting vendors to come up and give us quotes on that, so. Not sure
Okay.
what that possibly.
That's what makes the future so fun, you never know.
Alright.
So what we is that in our request, I don't see that in your staff report, Andy?
It's, for the approval,
Uh-huh.
no.
So what we need, do you know the exact amount for the additional, check we need to write? Because that's what we're when we have the bills plus the additional cost to give to Scott, is $8,600.
The second installment is in the bill to pay, 7,800.
7,800 extra.
Yeah.
So we're gonna put that under Andy's to
Well,
approve.
that's the second installment, so that's actually in the bill to be paid.
Okay,
It's listed
gotcha,
as-
we don't have
yeah.
that as separate. So I wanted to just, I wanted to let everybody know about that before we just kind of look at.
All right, are we on to, additional questions about the
Yes,
bills? Okay.
please.
Page 6, the first line item, Downtown Colorado Inc., Happy City Land Use Workshop,
Yes.
what is that?
That took place, about a month ago, was it? At the,
It's been a couple of months.
couple of months?
Yeah.
At the,
And what was that for?
This was Downtown Colorado Inc. They brought a project in. We were on the hook for 4,000 on that?
No, no
That's
city
a
money's
grant,
going to
right?
that. That was done.
So what is this $4,000 for?
Well, it's a pass-through. We got a
Okay.
15,
Oh, okay. It's a
our match
pass-through.
was from the Realtors Group, they paid 15,000.
I'm glad you got
Okay.
that said that because I thought we didn't have any.
Yeah.
We didn't have any involved in that. Do they have anything else? Hearing none, roll call.
Michael Holman.
Yes.
Stephanie Allen.
Yes.
Susie Stokes.
Yes.
Bob Boland.
Yes.
Mike Healy.
Yes.
John Curtis. Jason Segel.
Yes.
We'll go down to planning and community development. Alan?
You all rest of that, okay? Good evening, council people. This will be, in the, with respect to time, this won't be very long, but I thought this would be kind of interesting for you to sort of see, to watch as Idaho Springs technology just keeps going up. This is a really interesting, really exciting thing that we have now. Last year, Administrator Marsh agreed to buy us a GIS, which is basically a computer program. I just want to sort of explain to you what it is and how it works. It certainly could come in effective for many different things, but also it might be able to be something you could use personally. I can always help you with that. Okay, so I'm going to, real quick, what is a GIS? So basically, it's an information system that's used to design, store, analyze, manage large amounts of data, which is also linked to a geographic map. I'm going to sort of show you the way that it works. There's 3 types of geographic GIS data, what we call polygons, lines, and points. And all 3 of these types of data are linked to a database. So I'll show you lots of pictures so you'll get the idea, because it's kind of complicated at first to describe. Okay, so, oops, let's see here. Where did my picture go? Okay, so it didn't come out very well. So this is polygon data. This is data I took from Idaho Springs. That's basically the Virginia Canyon open space. This down here is line data. That is all of our roads in Idaho Springs. And then this here is point data. And when you lay all 3 of these things together, you get a map like this, okay? And the concept of a GIS, for those of us that are over 40, if you remember being in school where they had the books with the transparencies and you would lay them on top of each other, so that's the way a GIS works. This is something I took from Esri. Esri is the company that makes GIS. It's Environmental Services Research Institute. In fact, one of their main headquarters is out of Boulder. So what happens is they take these different computer layers of polygons, lines, and points, and they lay them all together in layers, and you get this map. And this digital map is then linked to a database. So some of the uses of GIS, and I'm going to walk you through quickly to give you an idea of what some of these projects are and what we can do now with Idaho Springs. Again, it's pretty exciting stuff. Data mapping, analysis of data, doing statistics, trying to do site selection, which I'm going to sort of show you in a minute, analyzing changes over time and distance, doing proximity analysis. So there's a plethora of different things that you can do with a GIS. Let's see here. Okay, good. That came. So this is a picture of a screenshot of our GIS, and what you're looking at here, and I'm sorry if it's not real easy to see, but here's a map of the city. Here's Clear Creek. The red represents the Clear Creek Greenway, and this line data is linked to a database, which basically looks exactly like a spreadsheet. And in this spreadsheet, you can put almost any kind of data that you want. And this one in particular, I'm sorry if you can't read it, but it basically says things like whether bikes are allowed, whether walking is allowed, whether OHVs are allowed. It has it gives the distance in feet of the segment. So there's almost any kind of data that you can put into this. Anything you can put into a spreadsheet, basically, you can put into a GIS. what you see that's in blue here is a highlighted area, and I'm sorry if you can't see it very well, but this little segment here is highlighted blue. When I selected that, it came up in this Excel basically spreadsheet. Does that make sense? So here's another screenshot to give you an idea. This is the GIS that I actually built. This is a GIS layer that I was able to build off of Clear Creek County's data. So Clear Creek County also has a very good GIS, and they give us some base data. And using that base data, I've been able to start building our own GIS. What you're seeing in red and yellow is the reds represent variances, and the yellow represents conditional uses. So I mapped all this stuff and put it in the GIS, and basically now you can say where are all of our variances in Idaho Springs, and in there it gives the address, it gives what the resolution number was, it's a little description of what the variances was for. So now we have all of this stuff mapped. Does that make sense so far? Here's another example, and I'm sorry again, this is kind of hard to say. I've been working with Public Works, and they did a really good job of providing diameters of sewer lines to me. So now we have all of the diameters of Idaho Springs sewer lines now in our GIS. The next thing that we'll be working on, surprise John, is we're going to start working on the diameters of all the water lines in Idaho Springs. This isn't information that we really had in a database before. It was all stuff that was basically out of somebody's knowledge, and we're really trying to get all this stuff compartmentalized down into it. So here's what we have right now on our GIS. We have all the addresses in Idaho Springs, we have all the building footprints, all of our parcels, we now have the boundaries of the historic district, all of our zoning, all of the land use recommendations of the comp plan, trails, parks, and open space, all the alignments, all of the existing and proposed parks, all of our roads, all the names of the roads, all of the streams, we have our contours, locations of where potential multifamily could be, we have our FEMA floodplain information in here. All of the water lines, the sewer lines has now been finished, so that's now new data. Manholes, city limits, all the development cases, historic landmarks. So some of that stuff was provided from the county. A lot of the stuff I built on to create these layers. Interested so far?
Yeah,
Yes.
very much.
All right. This is just a picture. Yes, sir.
Just a question, I just wondered on the road, right of ways, the boundaries of the roads are on there?
No. So what we do have, well yes. The parcel data actually shows where the boundaries of the roads are. The roads themselves are just lines. And the
Okay.
lines tell you the name of the road and the type of the road.
Yeah.
But if you look at our parcel data, you can get pretty accurate information by how far those parcels are spread apart in the right of way.
Yeah, and all the parcels are. next
Right,
to
so all
each
the
other.
parcels are spread apart in the distance of what the right of way is. So yeah.
Yeah,
In
okay.
general, we do have that information.
Yeah, just approach the road from the
From
outside.
looking at the
and
parcels,
stuff.
from looking at where our right of ways are and measuring between the parcels, you can get a general idea of where our right of way is. Make
Okay.
sense?
Good.
I just put these up to give you an example of some of the maps we have right now. The one on the left, you're probably familiar with this. This is a land use map that I created for the comprehensive plan. And not only is this a nice map, but you can click this map and get all kinds of different data out of this map. Same thing on the right, that is the open space map that you probably recognize from the comp plan. This was also something that I was able to build on our GIS. So I'm going to walk you through quickly what a GIS project is. So GIS, first of all, you can create really neat maps, right? You can also do some very, very detailed analysis. So I'm going to kind of give you an idea. So here's a GIS project, for instance. Let's suppose that we're looking for all the properties that in Idaho Springs that are zoned commercial 1, that are within 50 feet of an 8-inch or greater sewer line, and they contain a building of at least 2,000 square feet in area, okay? It's just any kind of, any infinite number of combinations. But let me show you how it works. The reason why I don't actually have the GIS running here is because I only have a license for it on my computer.
Right.
I'd love to put it up here, but it's another $1,500.
Yeah.
So I just took screenshots. So on the left, that is a picture of our zoning map. On the right is where I selected out all of the C1 zoning, okay? Sewer lines, this is not so effective, I realized looking at the screen. On the left is all of our sewer lines. On the right is selected out all the sewer lines that are greater than 8 inches in diameter. I put a buffer on these sewer lines. So what you're looking at now, that yellow, is I said sewer lines, I want to put a 50-foot buffer around you, and that's what you see here. Okay? So far so good? I'm trying to walk you through the steps. Now, you can see all of the C1 properties, you can see the buffered sewer lines overlaying it. If you can see I'm sorry, it doesn't show very, on the purple are all of the building footprints that lay within the area.
Yeah.
You may not be able to see it that well,
In the middle there?
but it's right here,
Yeah.
okay?
You can see the school there.
And using all that, I was able to select out this map here that now shows all of these buildings that are within 50 feet of a sewer line that are zoned C1 and that are buildings greater than 2,000. The reason, Andy, you don't see the school district is because it's not, the school building itself isn't exactly within 50 feet of the water line. There's the 8-inch sewer line that runs down the street, and then there's a service line. So these are the buildings actually in Idaho Springs that meet all those criteria. Pretty interesting, isn't it?
Pretty cool.
Here, the other thing, I put this up real quickly because this just happened today, and I thought you might find this interesting. John, our intern, everybody knows John, right?
Yep.
One of the things we're doing is we're working on getting our certified local government for our HPRC back on board, and we're starting to look at what has been surveyed in Idaho Springs. Surveyed, talking about in regard to what have we done the historic research on to figure out whether or not it's what we call a contributing or a non-contributing structure. John went all through all these books and put this stuff into a spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet has the addresses and the property numbers, and it talks about whether it's contributing or not contributing, and whether it's been surveyed and when. And that, I know you can't see it, that's what this spreadsheet is. This is something he actually just finished today, okay? With that spreadsheet, this spreadsheet has certain fields that I can link to the GIS. In this case, it has an address field, and it also has a property ID number field. Using that, I was able to link it to the GIS. So this so far is what we have surveyed in Idaho Springs. The purple represents the properties that are conforming properties, and meaning that they most likely historic properties. The yellow are the properties that were deemed to be non-conforming properties. Again, I put this up just because I thought this was really interesting to show you something that's actually just was done today and some of the power of GIS. And the last thing I want to show you, because this is going to be coming to you very soon, is this, so there's all the building footprints now that are structures that are conforming structures in this first survey along Colorado Boulevard. Pretty cool, huh? This, I wanted to show you, you're going to see this soon. This is a city map that I'm working on right now for the city of Idaho Springs. We don't even really have an official map. Up at the top right is a vicinity map. I was able to get all the GIS information for Jefferson County, Gilpin County, Clear Creek County, and Idaho Springs. That's what you see in the right-hand corner. All the rest of the map then has, you can't really see them, but the street names are on there. It's got all of the historic landmarks that are either nationally, locally, or federally or state registered. In addition, it also calls out some of the points of interest in Idaho Springs. This is going to be a 60-inch by 40-inch huge paper map that within the next few weeks or months, it's going to come for you to look at and start marking up. And eventually, we're hoping that map will be hanging somewhere out here in the hall.
Cool.
So again, I just wanted to give you an idea of what we can do now with Idaho Springs. We went from here to about here with some of our technology. It's some really neat stuff. Any questions?
And I'd like to say, Alan, great job. This is something that without Alan pushing forward to convince council to approve it last year's budget, for the future, from here on out in the future, most of the water lines and sewer lines that are laid in the grounds and the heads of John's father-in-law, it's not here with us anymore, because he worked for the city for over 35 years and he took a lot of that institutional knowledge with him.
Yeah.
So, you know, us moving to this
This
level.
presents that in the future.
Is this on the website or these maps?
We're not there yet. No, this is, unfortunately, this is just information I have running on my computer. It's not on the web. I'd maybe like to get there someday, but that's pretty advanced, and I'm not even sure if I can do that yet.
So it's for city use right now?
Right now, but I can pretty much run any kind of queries that you want, and you can do an amazing amount of stuff with this data.
And so when a developer comes in and wants to know what size water line is in there.
They can come in access.
Yeah.
They can
you'll
give
be
me a
able to
call
pull it
over the
up.
phone, and I can go on the GIS, or I can print a map for them, or I can send them a JPEG, or do whatever we need to do.
Can you zoom in and out?
Oh, absolutely. Oh yeah, you can zoom in as close as you want. You can zoom out. You can look at the tables. You can figure out who owns what lines, and
You take direct measurements off the map.
Right.
too,
you can
right?
take
Yeah.
there's a ruler. You can look at areas. You can measure perimeters.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty much endless
That
information.
tells you how many feet around the property you can do that.
So
So-
sorry.
Go ahead.
I foresee, not today, but a significant increase in demand for this information, most definitely.
Absolutely.
And so therefore, I mean, I know nobody wants to talk about fees and everything else, but does it make sense that we charge a modest fee if we're producing either a PDF or a JPEG for a developer for commercial purposes, so we help pay for this information?
What's the
I don't
existing fees?
That's, well, there is none right
There
now.
is
I mean,
none.
that's entirely up to you, council people. I mean, Clear Creek County charges a certain amount of money to print you a map. That would be,
For printing, I could see
Right.
that, but if they just
that's
It's not
entirely up
JPEG.
to
print out a
digital.
data.
I have provided, the format that is used in GIS are called shape files in general. It's kind of like a JPEG. Shape files, it's a geographic file linked to a database. I've been sharing that with our consultants. So I've been going back and forth with Clear Creek County and giving consultants. So we've all been sharing data to get our data all in sync and to get the best data. I haven't had anybody from the public actually yet ask me for it. That's entirely up to you if you want to have a fee for printing or distribution.
That's something we can discuss later, yeah.
What
If
about,
anybody ever wants to come into my office and just play with this, I think you'll be astounded at what you can do.
It'll
with
be
this.
neat.
It's really amazing. It's really amazing stuff. You can do pretty much anything you want with it.
so when a developer comes in and wants to start asking questions about what they can and can't do, is there no administrative cost for that to be passed on to them for stuff like
If
that?
there's calling with zoning questions, for instance, no.
I mean, is that something that's typically other municipalities are able to charge the county?
If we're talking about just calling and asking
No,
questions
no,
of our
no.
property, almost never, no.
But if it's detailed information,
Well, right,
it
like-
gets 15
like-
in 1 week and then
Like
following
the example you
ends up
made, like
differing.
somebody calls, I need to know how many properties you have that are within 50 feet of an 8-inch water line, 2,000 square feet.
What we
You'd be like,
could,
well, okay, for a small fee, yes, you can get this data.
what we could do, and I'd have to look at, we do have a fee schedule that has an hourly fee.
Okay.
That has an hourly
Okay.
fee of all the administrative,
That's right,
and
I
if
remember.
if somebody calls me and they need a 3-day GIS project to produce a huge amount of data, then probably I would charge them for the hours as
Okay,
it is
fair
per our
enough.
fee schedule.
Perfect.
So it's pretty remarkable if you ever wanna come in and look at it, what we can do now.
So you're gonna be able to import things like Excel and CenturyLink lines on some of your layers?
Yeah, so
Eventually, you know.
So now the mayor and Andy Andy's grinning because pretty much for about the last month now or more, every time Tony or anybody else has been giving us construction drawings, the first thing I've been saying is, can you give me these in shape files? So as they put in the infrastructure in Colorado, I'm gonna get it into shape files.
Great.
What I'd eventually like to have, which is a huge deal, and up there yet is what are called planometrics, and those would be the lines showing all the sidewalks and all the right of ways and all the curbs and all that. There's a ton of work that would have to be done for that, so I wouldn't really count on that anytime soon. But anytime we're doing construction, civil stuff now, I'm trying to get those up in shape files.
Cool.
And it's very standard. Most people use GIS now.
Important question, where's it backed up at?
Hopefully on our server. I'm not sure.
And the cloud.
It was-
In the cloud.
So however, whatever our CD backups are, I have it on the network.
You do,
So all of our so the program is on my computer.
yeah, right.
But all the files associated with it are backed up on the network.
it
So-
goes
so
to-
we
it
crack-
goes
so
to the
even if my
server,
computer
and the
burst
server
into
ups-
flames,
Updates
Yeah.
and.
All of that information is still on our network.
I'm already relaxed.
Yeah. It's a pretty amazing amount of stuff. So
Oh, yes.
I've been building on it for about 6 months, but I just kind of wanted to wait until I was able to bring it to you.
Okay.
Good job, Alan, as
Good
usual.
Are you gonna make a public announcement? Is there a press release coming about this? I mean, I don't know.
Huh?
I'd love to be able to send the information
I
to
didn't think about that, but we
women
could-
counselor of
We
Realtors.
could put a little thingamajigger on our website saying Idaho Springs now has a GIS.
Okay.
That'd be good.
Oh, that would be good.
Any
Yeah,
other
if you ever,
questions?
if you just want to come in and play with it, I'm always.
So
I
they
love
put
this
Tracy's
stuff.
phone number down for inquiries.
I'm always happy to play with this. And John's learning it. I'm
What's
working with John
GIS?
as we're snapping out all the historic properties. John is learning it, so hopefully he'll be up to speed on GIS here at
amazing.
some point.
It is very,
It really is cool
it's pretty
technology.
sweet.
Good job, Alan.
Thank you,
Any
Alan.
other questions?
Just a comment, I love Alan's enthusiasm.
Yes.
It rubs off.
Big deal.
I've always been I'm really excited because GIS was something I was really big into when I got out of college. I didn't get to do it for a long time. I got Andy to get us it, and we're building it. pretty
Council approved it.
Council approved it, and Andy said, talk you into it, I guess, and we got GIS, and it's awesome.
It's great.
I think the technical word is badass.
Yeah, I'll accept that.
That's one of Jason's words. All right, so we'll move right into a staff report for the parking.
Thank you, Alan.
Thanks, Alan.
Alan, that's you.
Yes, sir. This could be very quick. So, in our zoning code right now, we have minimum requirements for the length of a parking space. The minimum requirements right now for the length of a parking space, absolute minimum at a 90 degrees, so head-on, is 10 feet by 20 feet. As we were starting to work on redevelopment along Colorado Boulevard and repaving of parking lots and such, some of the people that are working on these repaving projects started trying to make these numbers work, started asking, do we really need to have parking spaces that are this big? With the parking issues that we have in Idaho Springs, now I get it, if you have an F-350, you're probably not you're gonna need a big spot, but if you're in an F-350, you're probably not gonna expect that you're gonna be able to find a whole lot of really good parking options. Anyway, most cars, the standard in the United States is about 9 by 18. If you look at your staff report, I did the research of about 20 different cities, and the average, it was around 19 feet, but most of the smaller cities other than Grand County, which is interesting, were all 9 by 18. And I actually talked to the people in Grand County, and what they basically said was, first of all, they have bigger trucks, it's more of a rural, and they have a whole lot more snow that they need for storage. Here in Idaho Springs, where we have more density and not that kind of more rural lifestyle, this makes sense. Again, this is the standard that most transportation engineers say is the minimum. So what I'm asking, so there's two things I'm asking. The first is for the city council to approve the reduction in our minimum size of parking space from 9 by 18, and that's only for the 90-degree head-on. It doesn't change for parallel or anything like that yet. I haven't looked at all that yet. The second thing is that the new construction standards, can't remember what it's called, John, the construction manual that we have, has a requirement that all parking lots have to be set back 15 feet. All parking lots. Now, along Colorado Boulevard, if you can think about what a big deal it is trying to push all your parking back 15 feet, the intent of that was for snow storage, but I just tweaked the language a little bit that basically says that you need to provide for adequate snow storage. And that's something we can work out during the site plan, that you're showing where you're gonna do your snow storage, rather than just making you push your parking spots. So what I'm doing here is just trying to make it easier for the people to redevelop their properties and meet reasonable regulations.
So a little history on that. Of course, we approved the design standards that JVA did for us. And we had somebody come in and say, man, these are pretty big. We can gain another 15, 20 parking places if we reduce them down. Then we found out that the person that helped with this design standards pretty much pulled the Winter Park code and what they do and just inserted it into our document. Of course, we read through it. We didn't, we didn't think anything about it. We just thought it. But after we looked at it, we did the research, and that's is Winter Park on. Yeah, Winter Park 20 by 9. So that's where they got that from, and the setbacks as well. Of course, we're a different community and have different needs, and that's why we wanted to take a look at it and come back to the council to make these modifications to the design standard that we approved a few months ago.
Well, I guess, can I add something, sir?
Sure.
One thing you should be aware of is that literally right now we are underway in doing an overhaul to the zoning regs. So that's already started to go to the planning commission. There's a web page. I'm preparing to have a public kickoff meeting to introduce it to the public so they know about this project. But if you've ever tried to work with our zoning regulations and let alone even read it, you understand how difficult it is. It's just been cobbled together year after year. So that's being done, and as we get to the more technical things like parking, we'll start looking at these holistic standards. But right now, this is a Band-Aid, just trying to fix it for the people that are redeveloping their properties right now.
Thanks, Alan.
You're
Anybody have any
trying to
questions?
change the 90-degree parking spots, you said?
Only the minimum parking space at a head-on, at a 90-degree angle. People coming straight in.
Parking spaces will be on your GIS.
We don't have parking spaces there yet.
Oh, well, you will,
Yeah.
I assume.
It's a lot of work, but if we could, if
Yeah,
I,
it
any sort of plan data that I can get into
Well,
any kind of plan data, I can pretty much put into it.
that's, yeah, important.
But it would be literally having to trace it off, have to actually digitize it all and trace it.
Gotcha.
All right.
Do
Any other-
Do you foresee any issues with, getting rid of the setback,
In regard to snow removal,
or just in regards to any other issues that might arise?
Well, the setbacks will be up to us to approve to approve the change.
So it won't be, so it's not a required 15-foot setback?
Yeah. Right now it is.
Yeah, it
with our
is.
design
Right now, it's a
standards.
15,
Right.
and when
And we're wanting to modify that
Right.
because, for
But that,
instance,
you
my
don't
parking
think
lot
that's
of my
gonna open up the
restaurant.
doors for any other issues to come through, right, to get rid of that? I mean, what was the point of the 15?
snow storage.
Snow
That's what I was talking about.
That was the only.
When I talked to JVA,
Okay.
I asked them about that 50 foot, because that's actually highly unusual.
Okay,
Even in Jeffco, which is very suburban, the setbacks there were 6 feet. So the 15 feet was just for snow storage, and that's why I said earlier that there's some new language I kind of added in there, if you look at it, that basically, instead of having the required 15-foot setback for storage, just says that the applicant has to provide snow storage. And when
so
we're
it's part
working.
of their plan for
Right,
their
and when we're working on a
redevelopment.
site plan or a landscape plan, we can say, where's your snow gonna go, versus you gotta push all your parking spots back 15 feet.
Right.
And of course, we don't get the snow when the park hits.
Well, yeah,
So
absolutely.
we're trying to be
That's
more
why that's
flexible.
why they have that 15-foot setback.
So is that like on the east end of Colorado where, you know, at the end of the parking areas, there's the yellow lines, is that for snow storage, or what is,
No, that,
what is that?
No, basically it's the geometry of the parking spots.
Okay,
I mean, you don't wanna put so many.
right,
diagonally.
I just assumed that.
so where it was dry, you
designated
couldn't get
snow.
a car in there. No, that's a
Right.
good place for us to store it though, because it's not a parking place.
It sounds to me like, the consultant was just a little bit remiss in analyzing the data.
There's actually more stuff in there that I don't wanna get into, but yeah, one of the projects that's happening with the zoning code overhaul is, I'm doing sort of phase A right now, which is just reorganize, reformatting, and getting the major things and making it flow better. Plan B is gonna happen next year. And so once I get the obvious stuff and make it flow and easy to read, then we're gonna start really working on the really technical things. And part of that is gonna be going back through that construction manual and comparing it against the existing regulations that we have, and make sure, because right now we do have conflicts.
Okay. All right.
It's a huge project.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
So is it a plan B or is it a phase 2?
It's a phase, it's a, I'm
Alright.
sorry, yeah, it's a phase. Phase one is something that I can mostly do by myself,
Right.
mostly. Phase two is gonna be where I'm gonna have to bring consultants on, because
Right.
once I've got the skeleton and the framework and easy to work and development processes and all that stuff done, then we're gonna start dealing with the technical things, and I'll start bringing teams in to kind of click those into places into that framework.
Perfect.
Is that when you do some consideration for compact car parking? That's gonna be a little different.
Probably what's gonna happen is with the parking right now, probably what's gonna happen is other than this change, the parking is gonna remain as it is with this
Right.
version.
Right.
And then next year, when we start working on the technical things and get the engineering on board, then yes, we'll be looking at all of our parking requirements.
Okay.
But this version is just trying to get everything reorganized. You ever tried to read our code? So I've tried to get everything reorganized and reformatted so you can read it better.
Any more questions for Alan?
No,
All right,
answer questions
good work.
we didn't have.
Okay, Alan, thank you very much for your explanation, and, we appreciate it.
You voting on this?
I'm sorry?
Did you vote on
Coming
this?
up.
Oh, okay.
Coming up.
All right, do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve revisions to section 21-105 parking dimensions layout of the parking and loading section of the zoning code and parking requirements of the standards and specifications for design and construction.
Second.
Motion and a second on the table. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Got it done. All right, city administrator?
Mayor and council, you have my report before you. One reminder, we have the public meeting regarding the Soda Creek redevelopment, or excuse me, the Soda Creek Road reconstruction project Tuesday, March 27th, from 5:30 to 7 here at City Hall, and the presentation will be, a brief presentation will be held at 6.
5:30 to 7?
Correct.
Anybody have any questions for Andy? All right, thanks Andy, good work. City Clerk?
Mayor and council, I did not submit a staff report because I was on vacation.
How was your vacation?
Wonderful, I have slides for everybody.
Oh, cool.
Good pie.
Yeah, popcorn.
Yeah.
Very good. Any questions for Diane?
You know, I don't think I mentioned the ordinance number on that. Ordinance number 3, series 2018, as amended.
Where's my
Sorry,
second?
my apologies. Who was the second on that?
I did.
Bob second.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll move on to City Clerk's done. PD, Chief?
Mayor and council, I will refer you to my report with one update. I did meet with John Seckman today, our marijuana compliance officer. He's met with all the proprietors, laid down some groundwork, and we're moving forward, so they understand that we are going to adhere to not just our municipal code, but also the state laws.
Okay, cool.
Any questions for the chief? All right, good work, chief. And chief will be gone for a few days this week, but he'll be back. He's going to Texas.
Thanks for putting that on YouTube, Mayor.
No,
But we will be patrolling his house and.
All of us.
I have a question for the chief.
Yes.
The training on the less lethal shotgun.
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, we, it's not a new technology anymore, but, one of the things that the county and the city have done is we no longer carry live rounds in our shotguns, we carry bean bags. And the bean bag is a less lethal, option for us. It gives us some distance. It literally shoots a bean bag, a small bean bag, at a low velocity. You can actually see it sail across the room. So that gives us an option versus, having to go hands-on when you're dealing with people with certain weapons. You don't bring a bean bag to a knife fight, but, it gives us another option. So all shotguns in the city and the county are equipped with these bean bag rounds. We also use them when we have to disperse bears.
Right. I was gonna ask if that
Yeah,
works.
I was gonna say, the beanbags would get one's attention, I would
Yes.
say. Yeah.
So is that different? How are those different than like a rubber bullet situation?
The advantage of the beanbag is rubber bullets bounce. And occasionally there's an incident where one ricochets and it, hits soft tissue where you don't. So the beanbag, you can actually not have to worry about that. It may skip a little bit, but it's not gonna bounce off the ground. It's
Okay.
also a slower velocity.
Yeah, well, I think it impacts a bigger area too, that really.
Yeah,
impacts you.
it'll leave a welt, that's
Yeah,
for
I'm
sure. It'll
sure.
get people's attention.
Oh,
Cool.
Okay, any more questions for the chief?
good.
All right, chief, thank you, good work. We've got public works.
Mayor and council, I'll refer to my staff report. And I do have one request for action for a sweeper. And the reason I put this in here, we can either purchase a demo model or we can purchase a new model. The demo has, if it's still available, 252 hours on it. The new sweeper actually has a larger engine also. So I don't really know if the larger engine is necessary, but we give you the option.
How much is the demo?
The demo was 187,000.
What that was, okay.
Yeah.
Did we already talked about this, right?
Well, we approved it
No,
on the
it's in,
budget.
it's
Right.
in.
Okay, on the budget. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of the-
I can't believe we didn't get any pictures.
I'll get them and show them to you.
The pictures were so dirty because the thing was just brushing dirt all
That's
over.
right.
So what kind of warranty would be carried with that demo?
The demo has the same 2-year factory warranty.
So 2 years from when it first went into service, or 2 years from our
2
purchase
years.
date?
I guess how
And I will
significant,
verify that.
at 252 hours, I'm just wondering what that means in terms of life for the city. Is that like an extra year added? It's,
Yeah, probably.
pretty-
I mean,
Pretty significant amount of
yeah,
hours.
252 hours, it's probably a couple of years of less.
Yeah.
is that right? Okay.
Because we typically only sweep maybe 2 weeks out of the year.
But do you
So
think
it's
that, do
pretty
you
wide.
perceive that to be an increased task with the new road?
It will be, yes, with Colorado Boulevard, because in the past, CDOT did make a fast sweep down through there, very fast. But now that we'll take it over, we'll do all of it once completed. So, and all of the sweepers that I compared were relatively the same price. The Global M3 had the longest warranty, and it's, I don't know if it makes any difference, but it's made in California. The Deluvo, the second choice, is made in Italy, so it would have to be imported.
And you tested out some of these on the street,
We
right?
tested every one of them on the street.
What was the price on the
$200
Deluvo?
209.
The Deluvo was 195, but,
Okay, that's not on here.
yeah, it's in there someplace.
I don't see the price, it just says that, it says move to approve the 209 for the Global M3, and then, the two, it said try a variety, the two at the top of the list were the Deluvo and the Global, but it doesn't, and it says the price for the Global demo model, but I don't see the
So
other.
it's more.
There's a proposal, it was 196.5 for the Deluvo. And then there's also a Stuart Amos Starfire, which is 201,000, and a Ferris Machinery Elgin Bearcat is 193,000.
Since you've obviously done some research, what's your feeling on these?
You know, it was between the Global and the Deluvo. The only issue I have with the Deluvo is it's a dustless system, and the filters are inside the hopper, and the one guy says, don't get those wet. Well, in order to clean the hopper, you have to use a hose. So,
Right.
and he said if you get them wet and get them soaked, they're very expensive to replace.
And that was on the Duvelo?
Yeah, the Deluvo.
Okay. And that one only has a 1-year warranty, correct?
What would you like to have, John? Your recommendation?
Honestly, I mean,
Sounds like the Global M3.
the Global M3, my preference really is to go for the new one with the larger engine.
It's got a bigger motor in it too,
Yes,
right?
it does.
For the bigger motor.
And something that's not
I
gonna
saw
die if
I
you
saw a
play it.
CD player and it's set on.
Got two for you sleeping.
Yeah, what's that about?
Just got 'em, country boy.
Do you know what you're proposing, how many hours a year you're gonna be putting on these, or?
You know, I mean, that's gonna vary also. If we had a place that we could, and basically this can be, all of these sweepers, for the most part, can be drained very easily. Not like our current sweeper. So, I mean, I expect, like, we could have been out using it for the last few days, but we don't have a place to store our current sweeper at night. And it's very hard to drain the whole water system on that.
Where would we be storing the new one?
Well, it'll be outside, but we can drain it fairly easily.
Until a new public works facility or.
And we'll keep the old one too.
Well,
So what-
we need to have an auction to get rid of a lot of stuff, to be honest with you. It's really not worth keeping. We spend a
Can we
lot of money.
can we get the 30,000 out of it to offset the new and the used?
I don't know if we could or not.
There were some days.
What's
John,
the
where
process
they get
behind
rid of-
having an auction, like you said?
They're taking it somewhere or?
They're-
just doing
they're-
it at our
they're-
shop?
Do a little spring cleaning?
We wouldn't know, it'd be going, they have municipal and governmental, auction sites. So we just would-
So we wouldn't have to like,
No,
it's
no,
not
no,
like
we
an
wouldn't.
event, we just throw it up on our website,
And Jason was going for an auctioneer job here.
right? No, that guy from Texas at the gala,
Yeah.
he did
Well,
great.
yeah, CML, budget labs.
Our budget, we put in the budget, Andy, 225,000?
240,000.
240,000?
So So we're still under.
Now just
We're under budget.
with that,
So you
Is
got
that for
enough money to
operation
build
and
this,
Sign.
I'm sorry?
you got enough money left
There you
over to
go.
build this thing for it.
Hey, Jason, there's your extra money for the sign and the
There you
extra
go.
costs for the
coming
roundabout.
out of your budget, you hear that?
I
They
can
just
always
pulled
find
money out of
more
your budget.
equipment to buy.
So,
Out of the
is
chief's
the
budget.
extra money in the budget for maintenance of said vehicle, or is that
No,
future
it was,
budgets?
when I initially did just a quick cursory, phone call to get bids
I
from
see.
people.
So
you'd
that,
get
that budget,
anywhere
that
from-
240 was just for the equipment?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
you just get a approximate,
Right.
you know, people saying, you're just budgeting this to say, we'll sell you one for $250,000.
Right,
So I just put 240 and that's it.
okay,
It did cover it, but.
cool.
How old is it? Did we buy our current one? Was it new?
No, it was a used sweeper
And
also.
how long have we had it?
We had that, well, it was prior to me coming here, so at least 12 years.
I think we were about the third owner on it.
Yeah,
So a new one's gonna last us 20-25 years.
I believe so.
All right. Any more questions for John? I need
Good
a
work.
motion.
I move to approve $209,215 to equipment company, Rockies LIC for Global M3 suite.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Discussion. Is there any other concerns or questions we wanna ask John? Hearing none, roll call?
Michael Hellman?
Yes.
Scott Pennell?
Yes.
Tracy Stokes?
Yes.
Bob Baldwin?
Yes.
Mike Buick?
Yes.
John Curtis?
Yes.
Jason Segel?
Yes.
Motion passes. We're gonna have us a new street sweeper.
Yay.
When, is it ready to go? When do you want a delivery on that? You have any idea?
Once I tell them 30, I think they said 30 to 60 days. So
36 a day, that'd
it
be
should
perfect.
be here
Yeah.
for summer.
Yep, perfect, cool. All right, thanks, John, good work. We'll move to water and wastewater.
Mayor and council, I'll refer you to my staff report, and I do have 2 requests for action.
All right. Before we do the action items, do we have any questions for Dan? Dan, I'd like to thank you for the tour that we got to do.
Absolutely.
Very informative. I'm sure that you're gonna get the 2 that didn't get to tour it, and
Anytime you guys wanna come down.
Scott and Mike, y'all can coordinate at a good time, you know, hook up with Dan. I would really like for y'all to, I'd like to kind of be with you as well, walk through again. But I think it's something that you should see,
Yeah.
kind of know what we're spending money on, you know, because people might ask, what the heck is this, you know, this $368,000 for, and we want to be able to tell them.
I actually had the opportunity to show my kids the slideshow on my phone after they flushed something out in the toilet that they were supposed to.
Education.
It was pretty fun.
All right, do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve, where's the? Oh, there it is. Move to approve, $25,278.21 to Fisher Construction for change order number 1.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion. Roll call?
Michael Hellman?
Yes.
Scott Pennell?
Yes.
Tracy Stokes?
Yes.
Bob Baldwin?
Yes.
Mike Buick?
Yes.
John Curtis?
Yes.
Jason Segel?
Yes.
All right.
And on the second one, that these, on the first page of my staff report are the bids that we got for the third
Oh.
skid.
So let's talk about that for a minute. So, we did on Thursday, was it last Thursday? We did a bid opening. So what we did is we collected all the bids for the
Oh, for the third skid.
the dewatering project.
Right.
And,
Third skid.
I'm sorry,
The
third
water
skid.
line, yep.
We had 6
Yep.
bids.
6.
They ranged the lowest one is
484
right
to
here.
623.
Just, I'm sorry, say again?
484 to 623.
484 to 623.
Wow.
So, and the 2 lowest bids were only about $3,000 or $4,000 difference.
Yeah.
So somebody just barely missed out on the.
And I misinformed you and Andy that the engineer's OPC was $420,000. That was an email he sent to the contractor before bid. Just to kind of.
Oh, no, Michael contacted us back and told us about that. He
Okay.
did, yeah.
What happened?
So what happened was we asked for the engineering costs, So the engineers, when they design these things, they put a cost of what it should be,
Right.
you know, to see kind of how it comes in. So if we say it's gonna be 400,000, it comes in at 800,000, it's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? So we thought, wow, there was about a $50,000 difference of the
You're talking about
engineering.
they make a prediction of what the construction's gonna cost?
Yes,
when they
what the
design?
project's gonna be.
Okay,
They
okay.
kind of give us a number.
I see.
Even with our road projects, don't
Right,
ever-
right.
And there was a big gap in there, we couldn't figure out why, and
Huh.
Michael's sitting there scratching his head, he said, man, this is way far off. And then they went and did some research and found that there was something that was in there that.
He was just trying to get the contractors to think their OPC was a lot lower than it actually was, to bring the bids down.
So it was kind of a deep breath we took, because we thought that we were gonna be paying a lot more than what we, had thought it was gonna cost. So we opened them up, Michael and JBA are gonna go through the bid, make sure everything's in there, make sure there's not something missing there that they didn't see, and it might increase the cost of the project, and make sure that it's all good, and we're here to accept the bids. It's probably, I guess it's already been done.
What's the I&I mitigation line item? That was money that John and I talked about setting aside to look at maybe TVs and sewer lines, seeing if we had infiltration, inflow, and then replacing lines as we go along. And John's been so busy this year, I talked to him, they're probably not gonna get to it, much of it at all, so it shouldn't be an issue.
So that would just be maybe pushed off to the next year?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the last 2 years, we've had 200,000 budgeted for that, and that's kind of a just rainy day, if something happens, we
Right.
have the funds to be able to
Yeah,
repair.
Actually, a lot of what we've discovered has been taken care of with replacing lines on Colorado Boulevard. Soda Creek we know is a big one. Chicago Creek Sanitation repaired a lot of their lines, so
Okay.
we have reduced the infiltration.
Okay.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the $368,000 from line item 54-71-7310 and up to $116,000 from line item 54-71-7320 to Stanek Constructors, Inc. for third skid upgrades pending all qualifications and bid requirements being met.
Do I have a second? All right, motion and a second. Any more discussion?
We're gonna put up to in the contract,
What's that?
so we're gonna put up to in the contract?
No, the reason I put that in there is we're gonna go back and talk to Stanek and see if there's any value engineering they can do to bring the price down. That's, price right now is the 480 or whatever it is. We're just gonna see if we can value engineer it and bring it down, so.
Yeah, but I'm
It
saying,
won't
if
go
we put
up.
it in the contract, then they can't go over it.
Yeah, I mean, they can't go over it anyways without change orders being approved,
Yeah,
so
that's true.
not much
Okay.
difference.
Any more discussion? Roll call.
Michael Hellman,
Yes.
Scott Canal,
Yes.
Teresa Stokes, Bob Boland,
Yes.
Kenneth Dealey,
Yes.
John Curtis,
Yes.
Jason Siegel.
Yes.
All right, good work. Good work, council. These are things that, you know, we're preparing for the future of Idaho Springs. You know, they're high dollar, high cost items, but I feel that we really need to upgrade and replace that third skid and be on our way. Good work. All right, next everybody got, when we came in, there's a gentleman named Rick Wells. He is a nurse with Centura. I didn't even read this, but you may have that in there anyway. He's also active with the Historic Society of Idaho Springs,
Yeah,
president of the board for
president.
3 years. Great guy. When you meet him, you'll really like him. We're trying to build up our HPRC, the Historic Preservation Review Board. Commission. And, if you remember, we approved Chuck Harmon a couple weeks ago. And Rick is very interested too. And both of them I went and approached, and I think they would serve well.
We had 2 spots, just the 2.
We actually have 2 alternate positions going to be open after this.
Oh, okay.
So,
Both Chuck and Rick spend many, many volunteer hours working for the Historical Society and the Visitor Center down there, so they're both dedicated, really are.
And we've been having a little bit of problem with our designation because of things not getting done like they should. So myself and Andy and Diane have really been plugging along on this to see how to get this in line. So we don't lose our designation, our CLG designation, which helps us get grants for historic properties. So we feel that's very important, especially in our community, to keep that going. And I believe that Rick and Chuck will do the things that help us keep it flowing and get it back to where it is. We're actually meeting with a gentleman named Mark Rodman
On the 24th.
on the 24th. So he's from the state.
Okay.
April 24th, I'm sorry. April 24th, and he's from the state. So
cool.
we want to kind of be prepared.
Yeah.
He's coming to a meeting, correct?
Yes, sir.
Well, he'll be at the HPRC meeting on April 24th.
He is a high-ranking individual down there,
Is he?
He's near the top, yeah.
He is the
He may be the top.
Second
right now.
command?
He is the top.
He is the
Dan
top, I think
Corson.
he is, yeah. He's the head guy, so this was, yeah, very impressive, actually.
So I don't know, we'll go ahead and do a formal vote on it. I'm not sure that we really have to, but we will. I make a motion to appoint Rick Wells to the HPRC. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any more discussion?
I think it's a great, he's a good guy.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we got us a new commission on the HPRC. Committee reports.
Did you ever do Andy's report? Okay.
Yeah, did Andy's report?
He's so fast.
That's because
So efficient.
he didn't have any, he wasn't asking for any money.
Oh, that's why I don't remember.
Everybody looked at our sales tax report, up a little bit last month, down a little bit this month, but we're floating along pretty good. You know, as the construction starts winding down for the summer business, you know, and this is, I'm okay with a $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 drop. With the lack of snow, that's what.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
It's affecting our, a little bit.
And we were talking about that today with our other stores, and, you know, this store here is definitely the most affected by the lack of snow. Because from that, we get a lot of that Denver, you know, just Denver quick ski
And it sounds
traffic.
like the ski areas are gonna start shutting down.
There's one in South Colorado that shut down yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So they'll probably get through, March and spring break and
Yeah.
we'll start shutting down. Even it sounds like Loveland, they should be shut. You know,
Yeah.
they like to go.
They like to go until
Loveland.
after Mother's Day.
Yeah, but they're not, I don't think they're projecting that this year.
but, yeah.
So there's that, and what else do we have? Any more committee reports? All right, hearing none, it is
I have a
7:08.
question real quick. Do we know for the East End businesses, the grant program, when will that?
We'll let Jonathan take on that because we did take all of them. Jonathan compiled all the requests, and
Yeah.
put them on a spreadsheet. There was still some questions that he had to ask from some of the
Right.
businesses, make sure, and we're talking about reviewing those.
Next work session.
Next work session.
Before the next regular council meeting, so last, Monday of this month, we'll review those.
So there were, how many requests?
Approximately 10, but there was 2 late ones, so.
Okay. And the projects will be, if there's 10 now, 2 I haven't seen, I guess, it would be over the $25,000 that we have.
There's $26,000.
So is it a total of 26,000?
Yeah, and it's about $150,000
Surprisingly close, actually.
Yeah.
of investment, capital investment by businesses in return, so.
So,
Cool.
yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I was just curious about how that was going on.
All right, hearing nothing else, it is 8:06, meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for the roster, Diane.
Yes, sir.